Welcome back, folks. Welcome back. Welcome back. We are talking about the healthcare system in the US of A. The US of A healthcare system, which is extremely broken. I've already made 2 videos about this issue. I've bemoaned the level of brokenness that is seen in this system. And now I'm asking myself, what needs to be done? And that fortunately for me, I'm not a politician, you know. Politicians tend to have this ability of talking about things endlessly with no intention of coming up with any solutions. That's what politicians do. That's what politicians do pretty much everywhere in the world. They talk, and they never come with any solution. It's a similar situation with this issue of police brutality, if you want to call it that. How long have politicians been talking about that issue? I mean, I know that recently they haven't been really talking about it as much, but as soon as we are close to elections, they start talking about it because it pays to talk about issues, but it doesn't pay to fix them. Because you can run about issues election after election and imagine yourself to be someone who care about the poor, someone who care about the marginalized, even if you have no interest or no intention of fixing anything that affects the poor. As I've been talking about healthcare, which is something that is not entirely something that people like me who are conservatives normally talk about, I've actually become very deeply troubled by the the state of affairs of the American healthcare system and the inaccessibility of it all and its inaffordability. I know that, for instance, right now, like Republicans are talking a big deal about the healthcare system because they think that if they don't look like they're doing something about it, they might lose elections in 2026. But I don't really think they care about it. I think President Trump does care about it to a certain extent. He has done some things that I've praised him on. That I've made videos about some of the things that he did, some of the interventions that he put when he met with the pharmaceutical companies, required them to charge the same prices for um, for chronic drugs that they charge in Canada, so that Americans don't have to go to Canada to get insulin at like 20% of the price that they are getting in the United States. But the same insulin is made in the same factory, same company, but they are charging Canadians like a third of the cost, or even 25% of the cost, or even Europeans. So Trump put an end to that. So he has done some things, but it's not good enough. I mean, he's done some things with regards to drug prices that have been very, very good. In terms of even like making it easy for out of label drugs to be manufactured in the US. Um, biosimilar drugs. I made a video about that. But the issue for me right now that concerns me is just the entire issue of healthcare costs. It's not just about the premium cost, it's the entire thing. The amount of money that Americans have to pay for healthcare when they are sick, when their family members are sick. Folks, when you think about it, if you've ever had a child who is sick and the doctor tells you that your child has cancer, your child has some birth defect that needs surgery, or your child needs some open heart surgery of some sort, and right now you must pay $10,000, and then the requirement is that for the next 5 years you need to pay $10,000 a year. By the end of 10 years, you've paid roughly $150,000. You've got into debt. You've had to sell your house, sell your car, sell everything. You are left with nothing but the clothes on your back. That is really the situation that is happening with a lot of Americans, normal Americans, especially people who are average Americans who are not in high-paying jobs like many of us are. So it's very difficult. So for me, the question is, has the situation with the healthcare system in America got to the point where it requires Department of Justice mandated investigation? That's the question that I want to know. Is it time for the Department of Justice to actually institute an investigation into what the hell is going on in the healthcare sector? And the reason for me why I'm asking that question is because I actually like these investigations. And the reason why I like these investigations is because, especially the kind that go into a sector and find out what the hell is going on, it's because these investigations have the ability to make things that were previously unclear very clear. These investigations has a way of showing you things that you did not even imagine were possible. The redundancies, the inefficiencies, the red tape, all of the things that you might find that 20% of the cost that consumers have to pay is going to an outdated thing that is happening, that is causing a huge redundancy and is costing people tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. And some of these things you are not able to actually find out until the government institute an investigation in terms of what's going on. And this investigation, obviously, they have to be open-ended. You need to find out, and you need to go there and inquire with an open mind. You are trying to figure out what is going on. You are not necessarily going there with the agenda that you want to put these people in prison or that you want to find them in doing something bad, but you are really just going there trying to figure out what is going on. Some of the things that obviously the law in the United States requires that obviously not just going to investigate high prices for the sake of investigating them. There has to be a sense that the prices that are being investigated are excessive, firstly, and secondly, that they are excessive and they hurt the consumer. It has to be established that there are excessively high prices that are harmful to the consumer. Can every one of us agree that the going prices right now in the healthcare space in the United States are both excessive and harmful to the consumer? Can we agree about that? And if we can agree about that, of which I think that we do, then we already have a legal predicate for the Department of Justice to institute an investigation into finding out what the hell is going on. Because some of the things that then get to be investigated when there is signs of excessive prices, you investigate things like price fixing, bid rigging, collusion, predatory prices, illegal mergers that can lessen competition. These are the things that get investigated. But some of the things that get investigated in a situation like that is corporate structure. Things like anything that can work to increase the prices in a manner that hurts consumers. There are already established laws that gives the Department of Justice powers to do such things. So that I'm saying that it is probably time for the DOJ to have an extensive investigation and also to investigate all of these mergers and acquisitions that have been happening in the healthcare sector in the past 10 years. And to investigate the impact that these mergers and acquisitions have had on competition and the impact that these mergers and acquisitions have had on the prices. and the impact that these mergers and acquisitions have actually had on the consumer in general. And then also what needs to be investigated is the linkages between the insurance companies, the hospitals, and the pharmaceutical companies. What are these linkages? How do they operate? How do they affect the consumer? As I said in the past, I am very fine with monopolies. In fact, I like monopolies. I don't have any problem with monopolies as long as these monopolies do not hurt the consumer. And the most important thing that I would like to know is that how does the erosion of competition in the past couple of years in the healthcare sector, how has it affected the consumer? This is the investigation that will take years. I'll estimate that it will take something like 2 to 4 years. And it will cost anything from, say, $20 million to $40 million. This would probably be the most important thing on the antitrust front that has been done by the United States of America since they broke up US Standard Oil. It is so important that it is even more important than the investigation that the US DOJ did on Microsoft in the early 2000s. I don't know if you guys remember that one. Because the impact that problems in the healthcare space has on day-to-day Americans can't just continue being treated as, oh, healthcare is unaffordable. Oh, it is such a mess. And also, it doesn't make sense to me to be throwing billions of dollars of taxpayer dollars every year into a bottomless pit, into a system that you don't understand in terms of what the hell is going on in it. So I think that it is incumbent upon any of the people who are elected by the people to represent them. Because your number one job as an elected representative, as a president, as a senator, as a congressman, as a governor, is to take care of the best interest of your people. And if your people can't take care of their kids when they get sick, if a sickness of a child can bankrupt a family, that is a situation that is just untenable. It is untenable. So it is incumbent upon every elected representative to try to understand why are the costs so high. That is what these investigations do. They answer the question of why. That is what they answer. They answer the question of why are the costs so high. Forget about the name calling and finger pointing and anti-capitalist rhetoric, anti-insurance company rhetoric. When you do an investigation of this nature, it answers the question of why. You need to understand the why. Because if you don't understand the why, how are you going to solve the problem? How are you going to fix the system? It's like, I think as an engineer, it's just one thing that you can't solve a problem that is poorly defined. And you can't solve a problem that is not defined at all. And what tends to happen on the side of Democrats is that they see them, they are very good at identifying problems, but they are very bad at defining them. I can even make an example about something where the federal government might have to investigate a situation. That would be the cost of living in a place like New York City and California, like Los Angeles, San Francisco. I've heard many theories about why the cost of living is so high in these cities. And I can tell you now that the only institution that has the legal authority and the powers to actually get to the bottom of why is the cost of living so high in New York or Los Angeles and San Francisco is the DOJ. All of those things need to be understood. And you can't understand them by making like meaningless political one-liners and cheap politicking and all of that stuff. You need to get to the bottom of what is going on. So I'm just making an example now about the cost of living. But the main issue here is the cost of healthcare. The question that needs to be answered, and it needs to be answered in the next 5 years, is the question of why is the healthcare cost so high? Because the cost that healthcare is right now, the going cost, even if you nationalize healthcare, you have this one-payer system, you are not going to afford it at this rate. You are not going to afford it. You are not going to afford it. You need to understand why. I mean, I was looking at the numbers right now, excuse me, in terms of how the healthcare costs have just been ballooning in the United States in the past couple of years. Let me just show you an example. For instance, in the past 20 years, healthcare costs in the United States of America has increased by approximately 150% to 200%. This is over the period of 20 years. This is if you add all of the increases in costs in the past 20 years. This is now since 2005 to 2025. That's 20 years. The cumulative increases in healthcare costs has been between 150% and 210%. In fact, another estimate shows that it shows a 210% increase in total national health expenditure since the year 2000 and the year 2021. Which also goes to say that if you were to look at this in terms of the year-to-year inflation, healthcare costs have consistently been higher than the national inflation rate by 3.6% every single year in the past 20 years. What do I mean by that? Let me break that down. This is to say, every single year in the past 20 years, if the inflation rate of the United States was a number X, the healthcare inflation would be X plus 3.6. And it's been X plus 3.6 for 20 years straight. That is what has been happening. That the healthcare cost has consistently outstripped and outpaced inflation by 3.6% in the past 20 years, leading to a roughly 150% in costs that families have to incur when it comes to healthcare costs. It's insane. And if you look in terms of the past 10 years, the past 10 years obviously being from the year 2015 to 2025, the healthcare costs in the US in the past 10 years have increased by approximately 31%, which is constant growth in terms of costs every year. Another number tells us that healthcare costs in the past 10 years, this is between 2015 and 2025. By the way, this is the period where Obamacare was already the law of the land. Healthcare medical costs, now just the medical costs now, have increased by 54%. This is between the year now 2009 and 2019. It is crazy. The reason why this thing is so crazy is because the salaries or the wages that the Americans are able to earn in this past 10 years or the past 20 years have not even come close to being increasing by even 50%. So, which means that unless you are earning these high-paying salaries, which some of us are supposedly we are able to do that, unless you are in the top 10%, top 5% of earners, there is no way in hell you're going to be able to meet these obligations. No way in hell. And so instead of, for instance, Democrats and Republicans squabbling about this issue of healthcare, my suggestion really would be, why don't you come together, put your best minds on this, and try to figure out why? That's the question that I would like to know. Because an investigation of this nature would probably result in a 200-page report. Most technical reports are that long. 200-page, 300-page, maybe 400-page report. This is before we talk about the addendum and the references and the citations. Just the report might be 200 pages, 400 pages. And it's crucial. It's very important, because it's very important to understand why. It's very important to understand why. And when you're doing an investigation of this nature, obviously, you have subpoena power. You can subpoena people, you can subpoena documents. Every single one of these guys, the pharmaceutical guys, the health, the insurance company guys, the private hospital guys, you can subpoena everyone and anyone. And it might take up to 3 years, it might take up to 4 years. This thing is so important that President Trump can decide to do this, knowing fully well that when this report comes out, he won't be in power. Because it's not even about him. It's important for the American people to understand why this thing is happening. It's very important. It is so important. Nothing is more important than this. To understand why is it happening. And often I don't like endless speculation and bickering that is not based on facts. I want to know the facts. I'm a science guy. I want to know the facts. I want to know proper causality. I don't just want to see casual correlation. I want to see what the proper causation is. And my suspicion is the United States might actually have to move towards a path where it says the top 4 private hospital groups must be broken up. The top 4 pharmaceutical companies need to be broken up. The top 4 insurance providers need to be broken up. That is actually where we might be heading to, because this thing is a mess. It's a big mess. Anyways, yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. Do you think that it is high time? Do you think that it is past time that the Department of Justice, the Antitrust Division of the Department of Justice, puts a team together and investigate this phenomenon? Do you think that the minimum threshold for probable cause and predicate has been met? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Sharp.